Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good
Waalaikumsalam.
morning. Good morning, everybody.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for all resident and rhinology supervisor, Dr. Riche and Dr. Anna, for attending today's literature review by online meeting that will be presented by Dr. Rahma. Okay, for rhinology resident, please give more attention and prepare your question and comment, at least one question or comment for the discussion.
Ya, Dr. Desi, okay. Dimulai.
Ya, Dr. Rahma, you may present your presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Riche, ENT specialist, specialty of rhinology, and then Dr. Anna, Dr. Desi, and all of ENT residents.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Riche.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Dr. Riche, Dr. Anna, Dr. Desi, and all the ENT residents for attending in this morning. This morning, I would like to present literature review from theory chapter 46 about frontal sinus surgery. Review by me and the supervisor, Dr. Anna Mailasari. I'm sorry, doctor. The slide is not. As the first, we have to know that frontal sinus surgery is one of endoscopic sinus surgery that the most technically demanding of all endoscopic sinus surgery. It is based on anatomically varied complexity, narrowing nasofrontal angle, and its proximity to some of critical structure around frontal sinus, such as the olfactory fossa, skull base, and orbital segment. This narrow confines and absence of post-operative scarring that makes the surgical treatment of chronic frontal sinusitis very challenging for rhinology surgeon. There is one philosophy for frontal sinus surgery. I think this philosophy is for all the ENT specialists that surgery to the frontal sinus is all or nothing approach to the frontal sinus because once maximum medical treatment has failed. Endonasal surgical procedure of the frontal sinus has been developed for years, and nowadays procedures are based on drainage or sinusotomy classification by Graf. The aim of our review today is to understanding the frontal sinus surgery by the recent literature. First of all, we have to know about anatomical surgical for frontal sinus surgery. I put the literature from Graf by his books, the frontal
Rahma.
Okay, doctor.
Rahma,
Yeah,
your
doctor.
voice is not clear. It's not clear, your voice.
Yeah, I'm sorry, doctor. Is that clear, doctor?
Yeah. It's better than before. Okay, continue.
First of all, we have to know about surgical anatomy, especially for frontal sinus. We have to know the pneumatization progressivity between the ages. I put this literature from draft from the book of frontal sinus, second edition in 2016. That there is a sagittal and coronal section from this picture. Number one is between 1 and 4 years of age that the frontal sinus starts its secondary pneumatization. And then number two, after 4 years of age, the frontal sinus may be seen as a small but definable cavity. And then number three, when a child reaches about 8 years of age, the frontal sinus becomes more pneumatized. And in number four, the significant frontal pneumatization is generally not seen until fully adolescent. And then number five, the continuous of frontal pneumatization reaches 18 years of age, and the pneumatization stops in 18 years of age. We can see in this picture the Agernacy cell, and then type 3 frontal infundibular cell, and then ethmoid bulla and suprabular cell. We can see here the middle turbinate and the orbit armor, the orbit in here. And then this is the parasagittal section of paranasal sinus. We can see here the frontal sinus is large, and the cell around frontal sinus, this is Agernacy, and then some suprabular cell, and then posterior ethmoid cell, and this is bular cell. The outflow tract is noted by the dot arrow. So this is the arrow, the frontal drainage, and the uncinate process in this section has been removed to expose the maxillary ostium. This is the tail of middle turbinate. So, by Kuhn, the types and variability of cells that can be found in the frontal recess and frontal sinus, which can markedly alter the frontal sinus drainage pathway. There is 4 basic cells from Kuhn. There is Agernacy cell, frontoethmoid cell, intersinoseptal cell, and cells that are originating from the buloethmoid cells and suprabular region. This classification was modified by Wormald, who more clearly defined the frontoethmoid cell and refined type 3 and 4 cells. We can see here in below, and this is we see the clear city anatomical. Some of example for frontoethmoid cells. There is small Agernacy cell that usually associate with prominent frontal peak, which narrow the epidimension of frontal ostium. And then this is the large Agernacy cell, larger one than before, tends to push the frontal drainage pathway more posteriorly. In general, it is associated with less prominent frontal peak, making the epidiameter of frontal ostium larger. And then type 1 cell, one cell above the Agernacy cell, this cell doesn't protrude superior to the frontal peak. And this is the type 2 cell, pair of cells above Agernacy cell, one of which extends superior to the frontal peak. The difference between T1 cell and T2 cell in T1 cell, there is the only cell, and in type 2 cell, there is two or more cells above the aggregate, but not total to frontal peak. And this is T3 type 3 cell, the frontoethmoid cell that extend above the frontal peak, but limited to less than 50% vertically hit to the frontal sinus. And this is supraocular cell. This is type 4 cell. Type 4 cell is in the coronal, axial, and sagittal section. It is the frontoethmoid cell that extend greater than 50% vertically hit of frontal sinus. This is the coronal, axial, and parasagittal scan that showing a frontal cell. It is a supraocular cell that traumatized along the skull face into the frontal sinus along its posterior wall. Finally, the intersinus septum itself might pneumatize in the middle and push the frontal recess laterally. This is the intersinus cell. By the coronal, axial, and parasagittal section, this is medially based cell that related to the frontal sinus septum, which open into the frontal recess. The frontal recess has always been considered to be the most difficult area to dissect. This is largely due to the location behind the tip of frontal bone. There is three philosophies that wrote in Wormald book, Endoscopic Sinus Surgery, in 2018. First philosophy that the minimal invasive sinus technique advocates management to the maxillary sinus and associated transitional spaces, such as hiatus medullaris and ethmoidal infundibulum, without performing surgery in the frontal recess. It means that the treatment of maxillary sinus and the associated transitional spaces will result in coherence of the frontal recess and sinus disease. And the second philosophy that the frontal recess and frontal sinus should only be operated upon if there are symptoms that can be directly ascribed to the frontal sinus, such as frontal headache and pain. By this philosophy, although we agree that surgery on the disease of frontal sinus and recess that is symptomatic is appropriate, but we disagree that this is the only indication for surgery in this region. From the third philosophy, that patients who present with nasal obstruction, postnasal drip, purulent rhinore, and anosmia, and who have radiologic disease in the frontal sinus or recess need to have this region surgically assessed. These patients have their disease maxillary sinuses, ethmoid, and sphenoid sinus assessed, and it makes no sense that just because they don't have localized frontal pain or tenderness, that the frontal sinus shouldn't be assessed as well. So it has been well recognized that retained or residual cell in the frontal recess or sinus is one of the most causes of endoscopic sinus surgery failure because it's scarring after surgery. That can be obstruct the drainage pathway. So indication of sinus frontal surgery is one patient only undergo surgery if they have previously failed at least 2-month course of maximal medical treatment that include culture-directed antibiotic, saline doses or irrigation, topical nasal steroid, and oral steroid. Frontal sinusotomy is only performed if there is objective evidence of persistent post-treatment mucosal thickening in the frontal recess or frontal sinus on paranasal CT scan. And endoscopic evidence of ongoing disease such as polyposis, mucosal edema, or mecopurulent. So you can see that frontal sinus surgery is only indicated in chronic rhinosinusitis when there is clinical and radiologic evidence of disease in the frontal recess and sinus that is not responsive to medical therapy. By then, frontal sinusitis should be treated no differently to any of the other sinuses. Frontal pain or headache shouldn't be thought of as the only surgical indication for endoscopic frontal sinusotomy. Preoperative planning that we have to do before undergoing the frontal sinus surgery. Surgery is planned preoperatively using a CT scan of the paranasal sinuses performed in 3 orthogonal plane. Each cell is confirmed by reference to the coronal, sagittal, and paranasal plane. The scan is assessed routine for surgical danger point. At first, we have to identify the location and course of the anterior and posterior ethmoidal artery. Second one is we have to identify is there the regions of lamina papyracea. And then the third, we have to identify the angle and potential ridges of the skull face. And then we have to identify the location and potential divisions of carotid artery at end optic nerve and the head, and more importantly, symmetrically of the lateral lamella of the 3B complex or Verros classification. In order to aid the preoperative assessment of the complexity of surgery, Wormuth recently published a study looking at the various options for a classification system. There is less complex or grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4 complexity that leading us to assess the complexity of during the operasi, during the surgery. After we assess the CT imaging, we can plan how to do the surgery. We can plan the technique that we can use. Before that, historically, the common frontal sinusotomy is being reserved only for salvation frontal sinus surgery in patients with severe recalcitrant inflammatory sinus disease. By understanding the pathophysiology of inflammatory sinus disease and the long-term role of topical medication in their treatment. In 1990, Graf published multiple articles describing his unique microscopic technique and result on frontal sinus surgery. He developed a series of graded posture providing sequentially larger frontal sinus abscess. This is the table of Graf classification of endonasal frontal sinus posture. There is four types of Graf posture. Graf 1, the extent of surgery on anterior ethmoidectomy with drainage of frontal recess by removal of obstructing disease inferior to the frontal ostium and the frontal ostium itself, and any cells producing into it are not touched. So we only open the frontal recess without touching the frontal sinus. Draft 1 is indicated for history, endoscopy, and CT finding, such as chronic frontal sinusitis due to sinus outflow tract obstruction at the level of the frontal recess. For type 2A, draft 2A, the extent of surgery for removal of all ethmoidal cells protruding into the frontal sinus, thereby creating an opening between the middle turbinate medially and the lamina papyracea laterally. It is indicated for complicated frontal sinus or failure of draft 1 procedure. It is recommended in frontal sinuses with a larger anteroposterior diameter. So anticipated minimum diameter of frontal neosteum is about 5 mm or more. It is also indicated for hypoplastic internal nasal spine or small frontal thick and flat ethmoid. And type 2B of draft procedure is removal of the frontal sinus floor between the nasal septum medially and the lamina papyracea laterally. It is indicated for complicated frontal sinus in frontal sinuses with a small anteroposterior diameter of frontal sinus, hyperplastic internasal spine, or large frontal thick and narrow ethmoid. And type draft 3, it is like type 2B, but bilateral or bilateral draft 2B with removal of upper part of the nasal septum and the interseminal septum. It is indicated for draft 2B over type 2 sinusotomy for cases with severe polyposis. The surgery in inflammatory sinus disease just aim to creating the wide open common sinus cavity for the delivery to topical anti-inflammatory medication. Topical fluid distribution to the frontal sinus has been found to be superior following draft 3 when compared with draft 2A and vertex head position into distributing synergistically in patient following draft 3. This is by Harvey. Harvey said that draft 3 is safe, efficient, and effective for maintaining sinus patency in chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps. And the theory has been shown to have statistically significant improvement in recurrent death in chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps, especially in patients with asthma and aspirin exacerbated respiratory disease. From Harvey, it is said that revision for draft 3 has a higher failure rate compared with primary draft 3. So Harvey said that we can do draft 3 procedure primary with in patient with nasal polyps. This is the surgical technique to approach the frontal sinus. I put it from endoscopy sinus surgery books by Burmal. We make axial flap. This is the cadaveric image of the left side of axillary flap. We use the suction sphere to elevate the axillary flap and then identification of the middle turbinate. Using the Hayek Doppler punch, we remove the anterior face of Akkermansia cell. This is in cadaveric image on the left side showing the anterior face of Akkermansia cell. And this is a video for surgical technique of frontal sinus surgery. So we have to, at first we have to identify the CT imaging. We have to identify the sinus frontal pathway and cells between it.
I think this video using the 70-degree scope, not using 0-degree scope. Is that correct, Dr. Rahma?
Yes, doctor. The author said that he used 45-degree endoscope.
Okay, so you have to mention that what the scope that they use to in this operation.
He said that we can use 45 or 70-degree endoscope. Using the mushroom punch, he removed the cells.
The instrument before is Hoffman punch, yeah? Hoffman forceps.
They remove the supraocular cell also. Use vibrator to remove the cells around this is the key point of Brave 2A. We have to define sinus climatization pattern and identify frontal sinus octal tract and frontal recess tract. Address the ethmoid cells prior to opening frontal sinus. And then we remove all the cells and in the pathway of frontal recess and cells around frontal sinus. This is the appearance of post-operative of the right axillary flap. There is the two arrow mark, and here this is the incision line for the superior and inferior incision. So the complication for the frontal sinus surgery, first the complication are due to the technically demanding nature of the surgery and the proximity of the frontal sinus to lamina papillacea. The anterior ethmoidal artery, ribrid, complete, and celsus. The most common complications are the orbital entry with potential damage to the iopolar muscle and optic nerve, and hemorrhage from anterior ethmoid artery, either from the nose or into the eye with proptosis. And then It can lead to cerebrospinal fluid leak from inadvertent intracranial entry. Without the thorough knowledge of the anatomy of the frontal recess, the structure are likely to be less at risk with potential catastrophic results. Iatrogenic injury with scarring on the frontal recess and or incomplete removal of all cells in the frontal recess can also lead to persistent or worsening of symptoms that can lead to secondary sinusitis. For post-operative care that we usually use to prevent the complication of surgery, Wormuth suggests the use of hemostatic agents which have antibacterial properties, inhibit fibroblastinization, and have anti-inflammatory properties, which all can lead to improve the healing post-operatively. Draft said that ideally the surgeon would have everything available in the clinic setting that he or she has access to in the operating room. However, practically, a few basic instruments like angle endoscope, curve suction, and probes that are basic required as the equipment. Cup forceps are useful to remove the fragment frontal sinus canal for irrigation or medication instillation, and through cutting delay forceps and mushroom punch for managing stenosis and soft tissue disease. And then the next for post-operative care, we suggest the patient to using the saline irrigation at least 4 to 6 times daily. And then we give oral steroid for 3 weeks on a tapering schedule for tendinous polyposis, where the minitrapins are placed for frontal sinusotomies, at least 5 milliliter of saline classes every 2 hours via each canal, and every second class half to 1 milliliter of prednisolone solution is instilled. The trapin are left in places for up to 3 days. And then for PMLP or drug-free posture, at least 5 ml of steroid and antibiotic are injected via canal just prior to removal. If there is a cut in cavity and decrease the amount of brushing. And then the patient is reviewed at 10 to 40 days post-operatively, where the sinuses are examined endoscopically, and if we found the graft, we have to remove it, and if the adhesion found, we have to divide the adhesion with thin curve suction that can pass into the frontal sinus and to clean the sinus to minimizing mucosal trauma. If there is significant crushing or adhesion formation, the patient can early visit schedule. If all appear to be feeling well, the patient can be reviewed again at 4 or 10 or 6 weeks later. So this is my presentation. My quote is, never explain yourself to anyone, because the one who likes you will admit it, and the one who dislikes you wouldn't believe it. From Alidina Vivaldi. Thank you, Dr. Rahman.
First, would you explain what is the quote means?
Sorry, Doctor.
Meaning of your quote?
Meaning of my quote today, just be ourselves without explain ourselves to the others how I am, and put what did I do before or what will I do, because we don't need to be we don't need to be assessed by others, because others will know us by our daily activity.
Okay, so we don't need to talk too much about ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Richard and Dr. Anna maybe have a comment about the quote, or we continue to discussion.
I think the quote is correct, and the interpretation is I have the same interpretation, so I don't have any comment. Maybe we can move to the discussion, or we waiting for Dr. Richard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to continue. I think it's the meaning in Indonesia maybe ya, in bahasa, it's better. Maybe Rahma can express about what is the meaning of the quote.
I think the quote in bahasa that kita tidak harus menjelaskan siapa diri kita, apa yang harus tidak harus menjelaskan ke orang apa yang kita lakukan, apa yang akan kita lakukan, karena orang lain yang mengenal kita dengan baik tidak akan membutuhkan itu, karena kita dikenal dengan apa keseharian kita. Lalu orang lain yang membenci kita, yang tidak suka pada kita, tidak akan percaya kebaikan apa yang telah kita lakukan atau yang akan kita lakukan, karena bila
That's right. Yeah. Okay, continue to this.
Okay, we continue to discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, maybe first green resident in rhinology other than Rahma is Adi. Yeah. Dr. Adi, please
and
give your Adi and Dini. Oh yeah, Dini hijau ya lupa. Okay, Adi, give your question or comment maybe about the frontal sinus approach.
In bahasa dokter? Or in English?
Try in English first.
Maybe later I will write after this. Maybe after this I will salin dulu dokter.
Okay, Dr. Dini first. Next Dr. Dini, we will ask Dr. Adi. Dr. Dini or Dr. Rika or Dr. Tiar.
Yes, Dokter. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Dr. Anna and Dr. Desi. I would like to comment about the presentation of Dr. Rahma. It's really interesting topic about the frontal sinus surgery because it's really we need to know how to operate the sinus surgery, especially in frontal, because in daerah usually we see the CT scan. It's not only the maxilla, ethmoid, or any other. But it also goes to frontal. So we need to rujuk to hospital that can do the surgery of frontal sinus surgery. So about the question, I think I don't have any question about.
Okay, only a comment, yeah. Okay, next Dr. Tiar, maybe you have any question or comment?
Yes, maybe I wanna ask a question. You mentioned before that frontal sinuses is pneumatized from anterior ethmoid and it grows from the child age until maybe teenager. And I want to say that it is right that there is no way children under 8 years old having frontal sinusitis because of the time of the pneumatization time. It's something that's even if the children have the clinical symptoms of frontal sinusitis. I think that is my question. Thank you.
Okay, so the question is children under 7 years old.
At 7 years old, is there any way that we can say that it is frontal sinusitis because the type of the pneumatization and the clinical aspect, even if the clinical aspect is leading to sinusitis?
Okay, yeah. Is it possible for under 7 years old in children? Yeah, for the clinical symptom leading to frontal sinusitis. Dr. Ahmad, you may answer the question.
Thank you, Dr. Tiar, for the question. Yeah, I think by the pneumatization progressivity between ages, children under 18 years old have no maximum pneumatized in frontal sinus. If there is indication, the real indication for frontal sinus posture, we have to consider that the complication post-operatively is the scarring that can obstruct the drainage pathway that usually it is more greater than before the complication. Because in children, it should be aksesnya lebih sempit. The access to the frontal recess or sinus frontal is more narrow.
Narrow access.
Yeah. Then the more narrowing than the adolescent. Maybe we can do this posture for children, but we can see Walmart classification like in this slide. We can see in the Walmart classification about the complexity. They set the narrow diameter. If the children have the narrowest anteroposterior diameter of frontal sinus surgery, we should refer this patient to the rhinologist that have the yang menguasai tekniknya.
Okay, is there limit for the children, limit age? What is the age limit for doing this procedure in children?
By my literature on Bailey and on Wormuth, Hersey, and Graf, it didn't set the limitation of ages. But I found it that we have to consider the degree of complexity classification to do the frontal sinus procedure. There is no age limitation.
Okay.
Maybe I will make for this question. I think as we know that in the children under 12 years old, they have the pneumatization of the frontal sinus is not good, still narrow. So I will ask Dr. Ahmad to search how many the incidence of the frontal sinusitis in children under 14 or under 17 years old. For the procedure itself, I think we have to be careful for any children with any rhinosinusitis because as we know that any surgery can cause the can impact to the bone development. So we have to do with very carefully because any scar due to the surgery can cause the new obstruction for the sinuses. I think that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anna. About the diagnosis, aside from the CT scan, is there any specific symptom for us to diagnose frontal sinusitis in children? Specific symptom, or we have to know it from the imaging CT scan?
Let me to answer this question, Doctor. In children, usually under 10 years old, I think 10 years old or less than 10, sometimes children cannot address the symptoms they have. The common symptoms of rhinosinusitis like rhinorrhea and mucopurulent discharge that not good and tidak membaik dengan pengobatan. Only that in the children, but if there is complication around the area of sinus, I said on bahasa, Dokter.
Yes, you may.
Biasanya kalau pada anak-anak mungkin di bawah 10 tahun atau kurang dari 10 tahun, mereka tidak dapat menunjukkan secara pasti keluhan yang mereka rasakan. Jadi biasanya keluhannya hanya pilek, lalu pilek yang mukopurulen yang tidak sembuh-sembuh dengan pengobatan. Lalu untuk kelainan-kelainan seperti komplikasi sinusitis pada struktur di sekitarnya itu akan muncul bila komplikasi tersebut sudah terjadi. Jadi kalau tidak kalau diagnosis atau diferensial diagnosis selain dari CT scan untuk diagnosis pastinya. Misalnya kalau pada anak-anak yang sering terjadi selain komplikasi orbita adalah komplikasi pada tulang.
Okay, so it's not easy to find the specific symptom in children. Yeah. Maybe in adult we can ask about the type of rhinology headache maybe. Yeah.
Frontal headache or pain.
Frontal headache or pain. Okay. In children we cannot ask it. It's hard to. Yeah. Dr. Richa, maybe you have a comment about Dr. Tia's question.
I think it is right. The answer of Rahma. It is difficult to express. The children is difficult to express their symptoms. Yeah, and then we only know about this. The symptoms generally, and then we can build the diagnosis by CT scan. Yeah. But like Dr. Anna said, that the sinusitis frontal in children is rare. Yeah, it's rare. Then after 14 years, maybe 14 or maybe 10 years old, can suffer sinusitis frontal. Okay, that's enough.
Yeah. Okay, maybe if I want to make a summary, we have to be careful approaching frontal in children. And Dr. Anna asks about the incidency of children. Okay. Okay, next question. Maybe Dr. Adi have been prepare your question.
Yes, sir. I want to ask to Dr. Rahma. After frontal sinus surgery not clear, often find cicatric and obstruction of frontal sinus. How is good to prevent this complication?
In what procedure? In what procedure?
How it's good to prevent this complication, doctor?
Prevent the complication of frontal procedure. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe Dr. Rahma first. You can explain about draft, yeah. Draft 1, 2, A, 2, B, and 3. And Dr. Adi, please mention or pick which procedure. First procedure or 2A, 2B, or 3. Yeah, Dr. Anna, you may explain once again about this procedure.
There is for draft classification of endonasal frontal sinus procedure. Type 1, the extent of surgery is only remove or make it clear the frontal recess by removal of obstructing disease inferior to the frontal ostium. So without touching the sinus the frontal sinus.
Yeah. First is only anterior ethmoidectomy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 2A.
2A, remove on the ethmoidal cells that protruding into the frontal sinus, thereby creating an opening between infiltrate medially and the lamina papyracea laterally.
Okay.
I think
remove.
We do remove the ethmoidal cells.
Okay.
To remove interior and posterior ethmoidal cells.
Yeah, okay, all the ethmoidal cells, yeah. So first one is anterior ethmoidectomy, 2A is all ethmoidal cells, and 2B?
2B, we remove the frontal sinus floor between nasal septum medially and lamina papyracea laterally.
Okay, remove frontal sinus floor, yeah, between nasal septum medially and lamina papyracea laterally. And then 3?
And 3 and draft 2B with remove the upper part of nasal septum and intersinus septum.
Okay. 3 is remove all part of the nasal septum. Ya, jadi, so there is 4 procedure in approaching frontal. Which one, Dr. Adi? which one procedure that you asked to Dr. Rama, how to prevent the complication? Which one procedure? First, 2A, 2B, or 3?
No, 2B.
2B, okay. Maybe 2B. Oh, okay. Dr. Rahma, you may try to answer.
Yes, I think.
Okay, so you don't afraid about the first procedure or 2A procedure, Dr. Adi?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, okay.
Because
Dr. Rahma. Because the first draft and 2A draft is more easier, yeah.
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
2B is I think it's difficult.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Rahman.
Yes. Let me try to answer the Dr. Adi question. It didn't mention how to prevent the complication of postoperative for frontal sinus surgery postoperative complication. I think for our procedure, we have to prevent the postoperative complication. Wormat said he suggests to use the hemostatic agent, which have antibacterial properties that can inhibit fibroblasmigration and have anti-inflammatory properties, which all can lead to improve the healing postoperatively. And then the second one, we suggest the patient to like nasal irrigation, and then we can use oral steroid, and then we can use some of therapy to instill into the frontal sinus cavity, and we do the review or we control the patient post-operatively by schedule secara terjadwal. This is how to prevent, but when we operate during the operation, during the surgery, we have to clear or we have to remove all the cells that obstruct around the frontal recess or frontal sinus. At least, I think I mentioned before, at least we have to make jarak atau jalur itu tetap terbuka at least 5 mm. So, jadi jalur yang sudah kita terbuka itu diharapkan apabila kita membuatnya selebar paling tidak 5 mm atau lebih, itu tidak akan menimbulkan adhesi.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rahma. Maybe Dr. Anna has any comment?
Thank you, Dr. Esti. Okay, so for the question from Dr. Adi, if we want to do the frontal procedure, I think we have to remember about the three things. The first one is the pre-operation procedure, or we have to make the evaluation before operate the patient. The second one is about the instrument that we have to that we know that it will need to operate the patient, and the last but not least is the personnel or the surgeon itself. So for the pre-operation, that Dr. Rahma already said that we have to do the pre-operatively surgery plan. So from this slide, you can see what to remember when we evaluate the CT scan before surgery for the frontal sinus procedure. So we have to know the location for the anterior and posterior ethmoidal artery. We have to know the lamina papyracea, the angle and the potential width of the skull base, the location and potential dehiscence for the artery and nerve. And we have to know about the Keros classification. And when we do the surgery, maybe Dr. Rahma can show us about the video from the draft 2B or draft 2E. This video is, yes, I think the video when they already show about the sphenoid sinus, the ethmoid artery, and the frontal recess. I think in the middle part, no, the endoscopic video. So we see from this video, they use the instrument that's different when we use the instrument to do the ethmoid procedure or sphenoid procedure. So its procedure need the specific instrument. For the frontal procedure, we have to do with the angle scope. 45 degree or 70 degree is the recommendation. And we use the instrument with the angle. We see that we use the curve or all the instrument with the angle. This one is the just like mushroom pump, but this is, I think, is Hoffman forceps, and they use the angle or the frontal suction and frontal curette that is different with the curette or suction that we use for the maxillary or ethmoid or sphenoid sinus. So the right instrument is mandatory for the procedure. Okay, so from here, they use the power instruments such as the microdebrider to remove the part of the mucosa because we not allowed to stripping out the mucosa. So it better to cut off this guy, the mucosa. In this procedure, we have to be careful about the artery ethmoidal anterior ethmoidal artery. Maybe you can fast forward, Dr. Rahma. Okay, this one. So what we have to stop? Can you stop? Just now. Okay. So you see, Dr. Rahma, can you point the recess, frontal recess? No. Yes. Okay. That is the frontal recess. So we see the anterior ethmoidal artery is live between the eye and the septal. Not in that point, but yes, okay. So its lies or the anterior ethmoidal artery, we can see it just in the inferior part of the frontal recess. So we have to be careful with this artery. And if we do the frontal sinus, we can do in 2 points. We can do from the anterior before to move the bulla, or we know as the bulla intact technique, or we do from the backward, from the sphenoid sinus, and then we going up or going to the anterior, and we follow the pelvis cranii. Maybe Dr. Rahma can point the pelvis cranii. Yes, that's from the sphenoid sinus. Before this, a little bit. Yes. Okay, that's the sphenoid sinus. You can point the sphenoid sinus. And now we follow the basis cranii. So we're going to anterior part until we found the frontal recess. Yes, that's the basis cranii. So if you asking what we have to, the point to do the frontal sinus surgery to avoid complication. I think the point is, the first one is the evaluation before surgery. The second one is the right instrument, and the last is the surgeon itself. I think that's my comment, Dr. Eci.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Ana. Thank you for your comment. Maybe later I will summary it. Dr. Okay, the last, Dr. Rika. Yeah, Dr. Rice. Have you, please give your comment, Dr. Rice.
Actually,
Yeah, Dok.
yes. May I comment? Yes.
Yeah, of course, Dok.
May I comment?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you for Anna. Thank you. This is, what is the very interesting. Yes, I know that. The presentation, I think, good, yeah, for Rahma and useful, especially for know about the anatomy and the mark. Yeah. But don't forget how to diagnose, how to manage the diseases before the surgery. Yeah, this surgery is very complicated. We know that. Yeah, we have to practice and hands-on for many time, I think. Yeah, and Dr. Anna have done. This is a good. We have the advanced surgery. Yeah, and Eci will following Dr. Anna. I think for the resident, this is yeah. I think this presentation only for give you something what is important to know about the mark, about the anatomy. Yeah, don't try to do the surgery before. Yeah, before you following the what is the practice and hands-on many times. It is important. Yeah. Yeah, just only this, I think. Dr. Desi. Yeah, this is only for knowledge for our resident. Yeah, but it is a good presentation to show how to do the surgery, how to know the mark, how to know which the location of anatomy. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Richa, thank you for your comment and advice. Okay, I think that's enough. Yeah, we already 1.5. Yeah. Okay, if I want to make a summary, as Dr. Richa said, first we have. It's nice to know how to read the frontal sinus from CT scan, and we have to know the complication if we do the frontal approach, because as we know, the frontal approach is we have there are complications to the orbital, intracranial, so we have to know the location and course about the ethmoidal artery, anterior and posterior, keros, and lamina papyracea, exactly the batas and location and potential dehiscence through the carotid artery and optic nerve, because if we approach to frontal, as we know, that's mean we open all of the ethmoidal, at all of the ethmoid cells. Yeah. So we have to know, for the resident, we have to know the anatomy and complications. So if we want to do this procedure, we know our limitation. Yeah, we know the danger area, and Dr. Anna say we have to having appropriate instruments. So this literature review, it's not purpose to do the frontal approach, but we can do someday if we already knowing exactly the anatomy and the complication. Yeah, maybe Dr. Anna have a comment.
And
Yeah.
and if we have following,
if we
many practice and
experience,
hands-on following.
yeah, hands-on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Anna, maybe you can give the last comment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Desi. Yes, I think it's a very nice presentation. Good presentation, Dr. Rahma, with the good video. You choose the right video to show how to do the frontal sinus surgery. But in this, I think in this literature review that you show to us is only for the procedure with the endoscopic surgery. I think you don't show the external procedure for the frontal sinus. It's okay, but there is, I think the comment from Dr. Echi or Dr. Richa is complete enough. And for all residents, you have to know all the procedure, because it's mandatory for the resident to know the anatomy, the pathophysiology, how to diagnose, and what kind procedure that we can choose. So it's mandatory to learn about the procedure also. Even though you don't do the surgery, but you have to know about the knowledge. So that is my comment. And for all the residents, must learning about the preparation before surgery, about the evaluation of CT scan, about the optimal medical treatment before surgery, how to make the indication, what is the indication, the contraindication is a must to know. So there is a point from me for this literature review. I would like to say gratitude to Dr. Rahma. Thank you for your presentation. For Dr. Richa, for your supervise today. Dr. Eci for the moderator and supervisor for today. That's all my comment. Dr. Eci, I will give the time for Dr. Eci.
Okay, doctor, about the external approach, there are other chapter in the Bailey. Okay, next. Almost all of the rhinology chapter has been present in our division. about 2 or 3 more. Okay, Dr. Rahmat, thank you for your nice presentation. Give us more knowledge, and for other resident, as Dr. Ana say, we have to know which procedure, all procedure, even though we don't do it. Okay, Dr. Ana, I will close this session. Thank you for all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.